In the highly competitive world of professional ice hockey, the path from promising junior prospect to established NHL star is exceptionally narrow. For every player who achieves legendary status, there are countless others whose careers follow a different, often more complex, trajectory. These are stories of immense talent, significant pressure, and the fine margins that separate lasting success from unfulfilled potential. The Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, QMJHL, in the 1980s was a well-known crucible for such talent, producing some of the most skilled offensive players of the era. One of the most dominant figures to emerge from that league was a cerebral playmaking center named Stéphane Morin. During his draft year in the 1988-89 season, he produced a staggering 186 points, marking him as a can't-miss blue-chip prospect destined for NHL stardom. Selected by his hometown Quebec Nordiques, he carried the hopes of a franchise in a province. However, his journey would diverge from this expected path, leading him from the precipice of NHL success to the minor leagues of North America, and eventually to a career renaissance in Europe. This is the chronological account of Stéphane Morin's life, a story defined by breathtaking junior dominance, the persistent struggle to secure a foothold in the world's top league, and a successful reinvention on international ice. It is also the story of a career and a life brought to a sudden tragic end at the age of 29 by an undiagnosed medical condition, leaving behind a legacy that would inadvertently contribute to the future safety of the sport he excelled at. Stéphane Morin, whose full name was Joseph Normand. Stéphane Morin was born on March 27, 1969, in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. This birth occurred in one of Canada's largest and most culturally diverse cities, known for its strong French-speaking heritage and vibrant urban life. Montreal at the time was a bustling metropolis, with a population exceeding 1.7 million, serving as Quebec's economic and cultural hub, featuring landmarks like the historic Old Port and the newly constructed Expo 67 remnants from the 1967 World's Fair, which had boosted the city's international profile. Morin's arrival coincided with a period of social and political transformation in Quebec, including the rise of the Quiet Revolution in the 1960s, which emphasized secularism, nationalism, and modernization, fostering a sense of provincial identity that extended to sports like hockey. His family background, though not extensively documented, placed him in a working-class or middle-class environment typical of many French-Canadian households, where community ties and local traditions played a significant role in child-rearing. From infancy, Morin was immersed in a bilingual society where French was the dominant language, and ice hockey was already emerging as a key element of daily life, with neighborhood rinks and outdoor games common in Montreal's harsh winters. This early exposure to the sport, even indirectly through family discussions or local media, laid the groundwork for his future involvement, as hockey rinks dotted the city and served as social gathering spots for children and families alike. During Morin's childhood in the 1970s, growing up in Montreal, Quebec, ice hockey was profoundly embedded in the province's social and cultural fabric, functioning as more than a sport, but as a symbol of identity, community bonding, and aspiration. Quebec's population, predominantly French-speaking and comprising about 6 million people by the mid-1970s, viewed hockey as a unifying force amid linguistic and political tensions, particularly with the Parti Québécois' rise and the push for sovereignty, culminating in the 1976 election of René Lévesque as premier. The Montreal Canadiens, the NHL's most storied franchise founded in 1909, dominated the decade, securing Stanley Cup championships in 1971, 1973, 1976, 1977, 1978, and 1979, with rosters featuring legendary French-Canadian players like Guy Lafleur from Thurso, Quebec, who won the Art Ross Trophy for leading scorer in 1976 to 1978, Serge Savard from Landrienne, Quebec, a defensive stalwart, and Yvan Cournoyer from Drummondville, Quebec, the team captain known for his speed. These successes, broadcast nationwide on Hockey Night in Canada, and local French-language telecasts, instilled immense regional pride, portraying hockey as a pathway for French Canadians to achieve national recognition and economic mobility in a country where English dominance often marginalized Quebec's voice. For young boys like Morin, born into this era, hockey rinks became extensions of schoolyards, with organized minor leagues and outdoor ponds fostering skills from ages 5 to 12. Morin's early years likely involved participating in local Pee-wee programs, as evidenced by his involvement in the 1981 Quebec International Pee-wee Hockey Tournament at age 12 with a team from Saint Leonard, a Montreal suburb, where he began developing basic skating, stick handling, and team play. This environment reinforced hockey's role as a perceived route to professional success, with stories of local heroes inspiring thousands of Quebec youth to pursue the sport rigorously, blending recreational fun with competitive ambition. As Morin entered adolescence in the 1980s, the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, QMJHL, emerged as the primary developmental pathway for aspiring professional players in the region, shaping his trajectory toward higher levels of competition. Founded in 1969 as part of the Canadian Hockey League CHL umbrella, alongside the Ontario Hockey League OHL and Western Hockey League WHL, the QMJHL by the 1980s had grown to include 10 to 12 teams across Quebec and the Maritimes, focusing on players aged 16 to 20 and serving as a direct feeder to the NHL draft. The league was renowned for its fire wagon style, fast-paced, high-scoring games, emphasizing offensive creativity, end-to-end rushes, and individual flair, contrasting with the more physical, defensive-oriented play in other junior circuits. This offensive focus stemmed from coaching philosophies, prioritizing skill development over brawn, influenced by the NHL's expansion and the need for talented scorers, and produced stars like Mario Lemieux, drafted first overall in 1984 by Pittsburgh, after scoring 282 points in 70 games for Laval. In 1983 to 84, Pat LaFontaine, third overall in 1,983 by the New York Islanders, following 104 goals in 70 games for Verdun in 1982 to 83, and Dennis Savard, third overall in 1980 by Chicago, after 181 points in 72 games for Montreal in 1979 to 80. For Morin, entering his teens amid Quebec's ongoing cultural renaissance, including the 1980 sovereignty referendum's narrow defeat and the continued dominance of the Canadians, winning the Cup in 1986. The QMJHL represented not just athletic opportunity, but a cultural institution reinforcing French-Canadian pride through its Quebec-centric teams and French-language operations. By age 15 to 16, Morin likely advanced through midget and junior ranks, showcasing early promise in local tournaments and earning a spot in the QMJHL, where the league's structure, combining education with intensive training, prepared him for professional demands while allowing him to refine his offensive instincts in an environment that rewarded high-scoring outputs. From a young age in the 1970s through his adolescence in the 1980s, Morin displayed traits of a thoughtful distributive center, evolving into a player whose strengths lay in intellect and facilitation rather than raw athleticism. Physically, he grew to 6 feet 2 inches, 188 centimeters, tall and around 190 pounds, 86 kilograms, by his late teens, providing a lanky frame that offered reach for puck battles and vision over defenders, but lacked the explosive speed or brute strength of power forwards. His hockey IQ, an innate understanding of game flow, spatial awareness, and decision-making, became his defining attribute, allowing him to predict opponent movements, exploit passing lanes, and position teammates for optimal scoring chances. Unlike players relying on blistering shots or end-to-end rushes, Morin's style emphasized puck possession, with deft handling to maintain control in tight spaces and accurate tape-to-tape passes that created opportunities without needing a dominant wrist or slap shot. This approach suited the QMJHL's offensive ethos perfectly, where wide-open play rewarded creative centers who could orchestrate attacks. Morin's development likely involved countless hours on Montreal's community rinks and organized youth leagues. Progressing from Pee-wee levels, as in his 1981 tournament participation, to midget hockey by age 15, where coaches noted his composure under pressure and ability to elevate line mates. By the mid-1980s, as he entered the QMJHL at age 17, these skills positioned him as a prototypical playmaker, thriving in systems that valued vision over physicality and aligning with the league's production of NHL-bound talents who excelled in skill-based roles. In 1986, at the age of 17, Stéphane Morin began his major junior career with the Chicoutimi Saguenayens of the QMJHL. His development with the Saguenayens was progressive. In his first full season, 1987 to 88, he established himself as a significant offensive contributor, recording 82 points, 29 goals, 53 assists in 70 games. This performance set the stage for his breakout campaign the following year. The 1988 to 89 QMJHL season was Morin's draft eligibility year, and his performance was statistically dominant. Serving as the offensive centerpiece for Chicoutimi, he played in all 70 regular season games and produced one of the most prolific scoring seasons in the league's history. He scored 77 goals and registered 109 assists for a total of 186 points. This point total placed him second in the entire league for scoring, just behind Patrice Tremblay of the Shawinigan Cataractes, earning him a nomination for the Jean Béliveau Trophy as the league's top scorer. His point-per-game average was an exceptional 2.66. In addition to his offensive output, Morin was recognized for his disciplined style of play, accumulating only 71 penalty minutes throughout the high-scoring season. This combination of high production and low penalty totals earned him the Frank J. Selke Memorial Trophy as the QMJHL's most sportsmanlike player. His performance in the 1988 to 89 season solidified his status as a premier prospect for the upcoming NHL entry draft. NHL scouting reports from the period consistently highlighted his primary strengths: his size, his elite vision and passing skills, and his high hockey intelligence. He was widely regarded as a can't-miss offensive talent, a blue-chip prospect with the potential to become a first-line center in the NHL. The primary and recurring critique in these scouting reports concerned his skating. While not considered a poor skater, his stride was often described as lacking the explosive high-end speed that was becoming increasingly necessary at the NHL level. Despite this concern, the consensus was that his offensive acumen and hockey sense were elite enough to compensate, making him a highly coveted player. The 1989 NHL entry draft was held on June 17, 1989, at the Met Center in Bloomington, Minnesota. The draft class was deep, featuring future Hall of Fame players such as Mats Sundin, Sergei Fedorov, Nicholas Lidstrom, and Pavel Bure. Stéphane Morin was projected to be selected in the early rounds. A significant narrative surrounding Morin's draft prospects centered on the Quebec Nordiques. The Nordiques were the local NHL franchise for a large portion of Quebec and maintained a fierce rivalry with the Montreal Canadiens. The franchise had a strong tradition of drafting and developing French-Canadian players from the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and the prospect of selecting a homegrown junior superstar like Morin was highly appealing to the team's fan base. With the 43rd overall pick in the second round of the draft, the Quebec Nordiques selected Stéphane Morin. The selection was met with enthusiasm in Quebec, as it represented the fulfillment of a hometown hero narrative. The Nordiques organization, then in the midst of a significant rebuild around young, high-end talent like Joe Sakic and the newly drafted first overall pick Mats Sundin, viewed Morin as a key future component of their offense. The expectation was that he would develop into a top 6 scoring center for the franchise for years to come. Morin began his professional career in the 1989-90 season. He made his NHL debut with the Nordiques that year, appearing in 2 games, but he did not register a point. As is standard for most young prospects, the organization assigned him to their top minor league affiliate, the Halifax Citadels of the American Hockey League, AHL, to continue his development. In his first professional season in the AHL, Morin adapted well, scoring 27 goals and 43 assists for 70 points in 64 games. The subsequent 3 seasons followed a similar pattern. Morin established himself as a consistent and productive offensive player at the AHL level with Halifax. However, his transition to the NHL proved difficult. The primary challenge was the significant increase in the pace of the game. The time and space that were readily available to him in the QMJHL were drastically reduced in the NHL. Opposing players were faster, stronger, and more positionally sound, which limited the effectiveness of his playmaking style. The aforementioned critique of his skating became a more pronounced issue at the NHL level, where a single stride could be the difference between creating a scoring chance and a turnover. Over his 4 seasons within the Quebec Nordiques organization, 1989-90 to 1992-93, Morin played a total of 58 NHL games. In those games, he scored 11 goals and 20 assists for 31 points. While he demonstrated flashes of the offensive talent that made him a high draft pick, he was unable to secure a permanent full-time role on the Nordiques NHL roster. He remained what is known in hockey parlance as a bubble player or call-up, a player who was highly effective in the minor leagues but could not consistently translate that success to the NHL. On March 22, 1993, seeking to move in a different direction, and with Morin's development having plateaued within their system, the Nordiques traded him to the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for defenseman Adrian Plavsic. The trade to the Vancouver Canucks provided Stéphane Morin with an opportunity for a fresh start with a new organization, away from the localized pressure he had faced in Quebec. He joined the Canucks organization for the remainder of the 1992-93 season and the subsequent 1993-94 season. His tenure with Vancouver represented the most extensive NHL action of his career. During the 1993-94 season, he played in 30 games for the Canucks, recording 8 goals and 10 assists for 18 points. This was his most productive offensive season in the NHL. However, he was still unable to solidify a permanent position in the team's lineup. He spent a significant portion of his time with the organization playing for their AHL affiliate, the Hamilton Canucks. Following the 1993-94 season, his time in the NHL effectively came to an end. For the 1994-95 season, Morin played for the Minnesota Moose of the International Hockey League, IHL. At the time, the IHL was a professional minor league of a similar caliber to the AHL. He continued to be a productive player at this level, scoring 81 points in 68 games. By the summer of 1995, after 6 professional seasons in North America, Stéphane Morin's career was at a crossroads. He had played a total of 90 NHL games, scoring 22 goals and 33 assists for 55 points. While he had a successful minor league career, the ultimate goal of becoming a full-time NHL player appeared to be unattainable. At 26 years old, he made a significant career decision, choosing to leave the North American professional hockey system to pursue opportunities in Europe. This was a common path for players in his position, offering the chance to become a featured player, earn a competitive salary, and experience a different hockey culture. In 1995, Stéphane Morin signed a contract with the Eisbären Berlin, Berlin Polar Bears, of the Deutsche Eishockey Liga, DEL, the top professional ice hockey league in Germany. The move to Europe proved to be transformative for his career. A key factor in his renewed success was the different dimensions of the playing surface. European ice rinks are typically larger than those in North America, with a standard width of 30 meters compared to the NHL standard of 85 feet. This additional width creates more open ice, which benefits skilled, cerebral players like Morin. The larger surface afforded him the extra time and space that his game required to be effective. It allowed his hockey intelligence and passing skills to become primary assets once again, as they had been in junior hockey. In Berlin, Morin experienced a career renaissance. He was no longer a bubble player fighting for a roster spot. He was the team's #1 center and primary offensive catalyst. He immediately became one of the elite players in the DEL. Over 3 full seasons with Eisbären Berlin, from 1995 to 1998, he was a consistent point-per-game producer and a leader on the team. The fans in Berlin embraced him, and he in turn found a new professional home where his talents were fully appreciated and utilized. He was no longer defined by the unfulfilled expectations of his NHL career. In Germany, he was a star. On October 6, 1998, Eisbären Berlin was playing a regular season road game against the Revierlöwen Oberhausen. Stéphane Morin, then 29 years old and in his 4th season with the club, was in the lineup and in excellent physical condition. During the first period of the game, while sitting on the players' bench between shifts, Morin suddenly collapsed. According to eyewitness accounts from teammates and team staff, he was engaged in a normal conversation one moment and had slumped over unconscious the next. The team's medical personnel immediately rushed to his side. It quickly became clear that this was not a simple fainting spell, but a major medical emergency. Medical staff, including the team doctor and paramedics, began performing emergency procedures, including cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, directly on the bench. The game was halted as players from both teams and the thousands of spectators in the arena watched in silence. Despite their prolonged and desperate efforts, they were unable to revive him. Morin was transported by ambulance to a nearby hospital in Oberhausen, where he was officially pronounced dead. The cause of death was determined to be a sudden cardiac arrest, colloquially known as a heart attack. The news of Stéphane Morin's death sent a shockwave through the international hockey community. The event was widely reported in Germany, where he was a well-known star, and across North America, particularly in his home province of Quebec. The reaction was one of universal shock and disbelief, as it seemed incomprehensible that a professional athlete in his prime could die so suddenly during a game. An autopsy was performed to determine the underlying cause of the fatal cardiac event. The results revealed that Morin had an undiagnosed asymptomatic congenital heart condition. This meant that he was born with a structural or electrical defect in his heart that he was unaware of. Such conditions often produce no noticeable symptoms and can go undetected during routine physical examinations. The immense and sustained physical stress required of a professional athlete ultimately triggered the fatal arrhythmia that led to his death. Stéphane Morin's death did not involve any controversy related to his personal or professional conduct. Instead, it became a significant case study in the broader conversation about athlete health and safety. In 1998, standard preseason medical screenings for professional athletes typically consisted of a physical examination, stress tests, and basic blood work. While thorough, these protocols were not always capable of detecting the subtle cardiac abnormalities that can lead to sudden death in athletes. Morin's death, along with a number of other high-profile cases of sudden cardiac death in sports around that time, served as a tragic catalyst for change. It spurred a reevaluation of medical screening protocols in professional sports leagues worldwide. The incident highlighted the need for more sophisticated and specific cardiac testing. In the years that followed, many leagues and teams began to incorporate more advanced diagnostic tools, such as electrocardiograms, ECGs, and echocardiograms, as a standard component of their preseason physicals. An ECG records the heart's electrical activity and can detect abnormal rhythms, while an echocardiogram uses ultrasound to create images of the heart, allowing doctors to identify structural defects. While these measures cannot prevent all such tragedies, the increased awareness and more comprehensive screening protocols that emerged in the wake of incidents like Morin's have been credited with making sports safer for subsequent generations of athletes. Stéphane Morin's legacy is honored in the places where his hockey career shone the brightest. The Chicoutimi Saguenayens of the QMJHL have retired his jersey, number 21. It hangs in the rafters of their home arena, the Centre Georges Vezina, as a permanent tribute to the player who recorded the most prolific offensive season in the franchise's history. His story serves as a poignant and enduring reminder of the human element in professional sports and of the fragility that can exist beneath the public perception of athletic invincibility. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up, let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and subscribe so you won't miss out on future uploads. See you next time.